All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Al Ginsberg. We'll try it again, a Friday free-for-all. And I told you Dolly, the dog, was not real happy with me being away from her. I had left her in her crate where she usually likes to go. She seems happy in her crate. I wouldn't be happy in that crate. It sort of feels like a cage to me, but she always seems to be happy there. But not today. Today she was barking, so I brought her up. She's actually in the room with me. You can't see her now. She's on her dog bed. I think she's a lot happier now. Let me see. Maybe I can show you real quick. This is not an ideal way to do it, but just so you can see. There's, oh, where is Dolly? Let's see if we can get her. There you can see her kind of in the screen, kind of blocked by my, there's Dolly. See Dolly? There you go. She's very black fur, so it's sometimes a little hard to see her. Anyway, that's Dolly, and she's certainly bringing a lot of joy to us. We're so happy to have her part of the family, but yeah, she didn't like being left alone, so I stopped the video and restarted a new one so she can be with me, which I didn't even think she would want, but clearly she did today. The news from the Middle East, let's just start there on today's free-for-all. Hamas is urging pressure on Israel, saying, well, we really can't get Israel to do anything. All they can do is kill us, killed our people. They've done it very, very efficiently, very effectively for 2 years. Over 67,000 Palestinians in Gaza killed by Israel, the great majority, well over 80%, I think, by most counts, civilians, women, children, non-combatant men, senior men, below 18 boys. That's who Israel kills. But they're saying, hey, we've got a ceasefire now. We agreed to it. At least let in trucks, convoys from Rafah as well, from the west, Egypt side as well as the east. And so far, Israel has said no, but maybe, just maybe, there'll be pressure enough to get Israel to let in more trucks and have more people's lives saved, people who are starving, people who are without medical care, people who are without necessary medications. We're hoping that will happen. I continue to hear from my correspondent in Gaza who does tell me, yeah, the bombs aren't falling, but there's not enough food. And the food that is there is very expensive. So that's the information we have right now. Do join us, by the way. Do join Halitics, say 240-242-5646. I'll be going until a little after 1 since we got that. Well, it wasn't a late start. It was a second start because Dolly clearly just did not want me to be in a different room. She needed me with her, so she's with me is the way that works out, and I'm hoping she doesn't howl. We have a death count, a new updated count from Al Jazeera because Israel continues to kill, although at much, much reduced numbers. 67,967 killed since October 2023, October 7th, and that was the day when there was the attack at the Nova Music Festival by Hamas, representing oppressed people, persecuted people, people who are occupied. 1,139 people killed in Israel during that attack. And I would note one of the defenses you hear for what Israel has done since is that they're right. They have a right to defend themselves. They are not defending themselves, right? They're going into an occupied land, a land they occupy, and just killing people willy-nilly. So that's not self-defense. There's nothing defensive about what Israel's done over the past 2 years, but that continues to be the argument presented by left and right, or what passes for left in this country politically, the Democratic Party. Just some more information, and we're going to really delve into, well, a bunch of stuff today. I want to get into why I think con influencers, people like, well, I guess Joe Rogan, what do you even call him? I don't know if it's really fair to call him a conservative influencer. He's an influencer. I don't know that I would even ever call him a guy who supported Bernie Sanders as a conservative, but he does have influence across the board. And also Candace Owens, why they have demonstrated, to my way of thinking, certainly when it comes to Israel a moral authority and clarity that is lacking even the most progressive Democrats, meaning AOC and Bernie, certainly. So that is really a sad commentary, isn't it? That we can look to folks like Owens and maybe even Nick Fuentes for a certain moral certitude that is just woefully gone in today's progressive left. It's very, very sad. And it presents an enormous opening on the left for someone who does, or for a party that actually can speak to the crises of our time, because the Democratic Party obviously cannot. And it's not only, certainly this is the most important crisis right now, the genocide in Gaza, but also the climate catastrophe, the existential threat posed by human-caused climate change, and the incredibly abusive treatment of immigrants in this country. These are opportunities, as awful as they are, these crises, these dilemmas provide opportunities for the left, for an organized left party to take power, to seize the imagination of the American voter. And that's what I hope will happen. So we just mentioned Hamas has urged mediators in the international community to pressure Israel to open the Rafah crossing as stipulated by the ceasefire agreement. I was not aware that that was in the ceasefire agreement, but it's nice to know it is. UN still says it faces roadblocks. Israel continues to prevent the needed aid getting to the people of Gaza because Israel wants to wipe them off the face of the planet. No question. Netanyahu wants to wipe them off the face of this earth. I posted a video that made the point, a little mini video why I don't give Trump credit. And this was a big part of it because there's no coercive measures that are set forth in the agreement. Yes, the Rafah crossing must ultimately be open. We just see that in the Al Jazeera, that's part of the ceasefire agreement. But what's the consequences? What will happen to Israel? Is it set out? Will they be denied weapons? Will they be denied aid? Will they be denied money? What will happen? Will there be a military incursion led by the United States and other UN peacekeeping forces to actually go into Israel and seize Netanyahu and put him in front of the International Criminal Court to answer to the charges of genocide? I mean, that would be an enforcement mechanism, right? That's what we need. And I said in the video, it was a short that was taken from an earlier video I did this week. I said, that's why I don't give Trump credit, because there are no enforcement mechanisms. There are no consequences for the architects of this genocide. There are no, and one response I saw was, well, that's because you really want it to fail. You just don't want to give Trump any credit. You want this to fail. No, I really, really want it to succeed. The problem is that Trump set it up with Netanyahu to fail, with one caveat, an important caveat. As long as Trump is willing to, at least along the sidelines, maybe under the rose, if you will, so people don't know, as long as he is able to impress upon Netanyahu to a point where Netanyahu really believes that Trump will, in fact, hold him accountable if he doesn't. If he starts the killing in earnest again, as long as that threat is there, I do think Israel will probably abide by it. But they're already, and every now and then they kill people, and we're seeing certainly on the West Bank the attacks on Palestinians. The Greater Israel Project continues. So what credit really should I be giving Trump? But we're not seeing an end. It was basically just to the gun pointed at the head of the Palestinian people, the people of Gaza, either give in to this, and at least for a brief period, if not longer, we'll stop bombing you. But that's all we're going to promise. Either give in, or we'll stop bombing, or we'll stop bombing you, or don't give in, and we're going to keep killing you in the numbers you've come to die with. So olive pickers here assaulted, this is earlier today, by Israeli settlers in West Bank. So again, they're just taking the land, stealing it, pushing Palestinians further and further east, and also consolidating them in smaller and smaller little pockets where they'll be easier to encircle and perhaps likely either kill or evict completely. That's what Israel's doing. Remember, we heard this is just an example of the moral bankruptcy of Democratic leaders. Ben Cramer, a Democratic state senator here in Maryland, blaming Jordan and Egypt for Israel's behavior today, blaming the actions of Israel and Jordan in 1967 and 73 certainly in 73 when they apparently did launch the Yom Kippur War. And Ben Winkler was a guy who ran for Democratic Party chair, DNC chair, last year, and he lost to another centrist, right? Winkler was the more centrist guy Wickler, the more centrist guy from Wisconsin, losing to the slightly less centrist, but still centrist Minnesotan, who was championed by Our Revolution, among others. Can't remember his name now. It's not awful. I can sort of see the guy too. 240-242-5646 if you want to join me. Israel attacking the olive pickers, Israel stealing the land, and the defense offered by Democratic state senator here in Maryland as well. Back in 1973, 53 years ago, Jordan launched an attack from the West Bank. So therefore, now Israel gets to push all the Palestinian people off that land. That's the defense. It's great defense. Really, really compelling, really good argument, isn't it? 240-242-5646. This is where the Democrat Party needs to stand up and say, no. We have to be much more assertive. We have to be much more aggressive when it comes to responding to Israel. Of course, they'd have a lot of trouble doing that because they gave in and gave Israel everything it wanted and then claimed they were standing up to it. So tough for both parties in this point. And you'll see that the con influencers are actually holding Republicans to the fire to a degree. Trump says he expects an expansion of the Abraham Accords. So the Abraham Accords are agreements between Israel and Arab nations, normalizing ties between Israel and Muslim countries after threatening Hamas over gang clashes. Yeah, there are gang clashes in Gaza right now between Hamas and other gangs. I don't know what Trump wants Gaza to do, wants Hamas to do. The Abraham Accords are problematic, obviously, for Arab countries because the Arab street, so-called, meaning middle class and working and poor Arabs, hate Israel. They see their co-religionists, they see their co-Muslims, they see their co-Arabs being slaughtered, being eradicated, mass murder. And the last thing they want is for their leaders who also mistreat them, who also kill them, who also torture them, often with American weaponry. The last thing they want are their leaders to enter into some agreement with the killers in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. That's the last thing they want. And that Arab street has kept Israel from being able to normalize relations with the Riyadh, with Cairo. Probably it's better. Maybe it's better, because if there were normal relationships between Israel, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, if there were truly normalized relations, The fear, of course, is that Israel would feel zero compunction whatsoever when it comes to killing Muslims, when it comes to ethnic cleansing. And by the way, not just Muslims. We know that Christians are being attacked by Israel. We know that Druze are being attacked by Israel, both within Israel and also West Bank, Gaza. The fear, maybe it's not great. The Israeli government has known for decades now that Washington has its back, both in the UN and on the battlefield. Washington will always be there to protect Israel. They know that, but there's still that fear. Well, there are 100 million Arabs more, many more than that. Pakistan, Iran, to a lesser degree, Afghanistan, Turkey. These are populous countries with big armies. Now, they're not as modern as Israel's. They're not as well equipped. They're not as well led. But they still can impose damage. We saw that. Iran was starting to really cause casualties in Israel when Washington imposed a ceasefire, D.C., when Trump imposed a ceasefire. So Israel does face risks from Arab neighbors. So they want those Abraham Accords. And Trump wants the Abraham Accords. He wants peace on his terms, where he has a bunch of supine leaders throughout the region who will do basically whatever he wants in terms of business, in terms of oil, in terms of building, tourist attractions and resorts. That's what Trump wants. That's what Jared Kushner wants. So they push the Abraham Accords because the war, has benefits for Trump and for the West. Certainly, no question it has benefits. The military contractors get rich. Many of them are very, have seats in power. We saw that obviously with Dick Cheney, former CEO of Halliburton, vice president. We saw that with Antony Blinken. We see that, we saw that with Avril Haines. So we see that Washington often profits from war. The people who decide to make war profit from that war. But I think in the end, Trump probably would say peace is more profitable than war. And so a peace on his terms, a peace where there's little or no freedom in the Middle East. A peace where there are a few tyrants who make the shots, call the shot. Apparently, that's also what Thomas Friedman in the New York Times wants, because he's talking about the opportunities that the ceasefire presents and why ultimately the Abraham Accords would be a good thing and how they can come about. And it's remarkable. You see the mask off completely. There's not even a pretext in Friedman that there should be democracy, that the people should get to decide what their government does, that it's understandable that the citizenry of a country might not like to know that millions of Muslims, the citizens of a predominantly Muslim country, might not like it when their leaders make peace with a country that is killing millions of Muslims, displacing them, turning them into refugees, and not only within its borders and within its greater, area of control, but also bombing other countries, killing the leaders of other countries, killing the families of those leaders. So it's understandable why in Egypt, why in Saudi Arabia in the street, there would be massive objections to any kind of a peace deal with Israel. But that's not really a problem anymore, at least not according to Thomas Friedman, or it's much less of a problem than it's been in the past. And it's really, again, quite extraordinary, the mask-off moment you see with Tom Friedman here. So he says, hey, one of the good things we've seen, one of the recent developments is making peace more likely, is that in the past 10 to 15 years, leadership in the Arab world has moved. It's moved from republics, so you see that like Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq, to the Gulf. So a republic, as I understand it, is where you do elect your leader, right? There's a president. Now, I understand they're problematic republics, just like our republic is very problematic. We clearly don't have any kind of full-blown democracy here, and it was even less so in countries like Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. But there was some democratic trappings before we destroyed Iraq, which I guess he thinks is a good thing, right? There's no more leaders in Iraq and Syria because we destroyed those countries, and that's a good thing. Look, these monarchies have a lot more legitimacy. What Friedman is saying is countries like 20 years ago, before we destroyed Iraq, before we destroyed Syria, the leaders, the presidents in those countries, not like they were great, not like where anyone was looking at Bashar al-Assad and saying he was some sort of wonderful Democrat, or go back to Gaddafi, he was a colonel there in the army. But again, those leaders, they did have to take into account what the people wanted. The public had some influence over them. But now, monarchies like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, which he extols, he's flat out, hey, a monarchy, it's not a democracy, it's not a republic, there's no vote. We just have a hereditary ruler. Well, they have more legitimacy. They have more legitimacy because if you speak out against them, they'll kill you. You'll be tortured. You'll be disappeared. That's the legitimacy. The legitimacy is a terrified citizenry. And Friedman loves it. They're not vulnerable to the traditional Palestinian blandishments. Yet the blandishments of the Palestinian people, they're killing us. They're destroying us. They're stealing our land. They're shooting our children in the head. Isn't this awful? Please do something about it. Stop it. Don't become friends with these people. They're the worst people on the planet. Yeah, those blandishments actually had some impact over the presidents, if you want to call them that, in Egypt, Syria, Iraq. But what did the king of Saudi Arabia? He doesn't care. Royal House of Saud, I'm sitting on $1 trillion worth of oil. That's what I care about it. That's what I care. It's really just, you read this and you're thinking, this is your paper of record. This guy, Friedman's one of the most influential people when it comes to foreign policy anywhere. And he's telling you it's a good thing that the United States turned Iraq into a terrorist training zone, turned Libya into a terrorist training zone, destroyed Syria. He's saying those are all good things because now the Arab citizenry has virtually no influence whatsoever over their leaders. And peace with the genocidal state of Israel is closer than ever. That, according to Tom Friedman, is a good thing. When you think about that, you've got to say, we don't live in democracy. There's no democracy here. Because that's supposed to be the free press, right? That's supposed to be the watchdog, the media, holding accountable those with power. And far from holding them accountable, Friedman is praising W's destruction of Iraq, praising the Israel's campaign against Lebanon and Syria, totally destabilizing those regions, turning them into voids. I wish I had an answer. My answer is we got to get rid of the leadership today. It's just that bad. It doesn't speak truth. Nobody, there's no leaders out there. There's no media that speaks truth to power. Yeah, watch YouTube videos if you can, although who knows how long we'll have that freedom either. I I do believe, despite all evidence to the contrary, here at Halitics, we do believe, and by the way, maybe I didn't tell you this before. I did in the first video, but we'll get to Zoran in just a sec. We'll get to that. There was a debate yesterday. I don't have any clips from it. I don't really care about that, but I do want to give you some more information, what I think about how bad the media is. But do click subscribe, bottom right of our screen here. Do call 240-242-5646. Do comment. I'm going to go check and see, are there any comments in our chat? I don't see any. We had a lot yesterday, but nobody's really that interested, I guess, in commenting on what I have to say at this today. That's fine. Want to ask you, if you haven't yet done so, join us on Facebook. Click the group, right? Join us on the Halitics on Facebook group. And yeah, just keep comments coming. Any comments. I had one I wanted to share with you. This guy says, I'm going to subscribe even though you're an idiot, something like that. And I'm like, I'll take it. Yes, please. If being an idiot gets you to subscribe to Halitics, hey, we'll take it. We'll be all right with that. Interesting. So there was a debate last night. Now, look, I want Mamdani to win. I have a lot of problems with Mamdani, right? I think he's backed away a little bit. He's not as critical of Israel as I want to be, although he said flat out he does not support Israel's right to exist as an ethnic state. He said that last night. Good for him. He's holding firm. I give him credit for that. I think right now, look, the guy has the lead. It's a sizable lead. He, barring a major stubbing of the toe, even if, and I don't think this will happen, even if Curtis Lee was somehow withdraws from the race at this point, I don't think that would be sufficient to make this a toss-up. I would still say Mamdani would be the favorite. And Sliwa doesn't look like he's dropping out. His name will still be on the ballot. Eric Adams' name is still on the ballot. It's interesting. The media they really hate Zoran Mamdani. They really. I think Newsweek, is it owned by, now I guess he's the third. Is he the third richest man in the world now? Bezos? Is he the third richest? Because I think it goes Larry Ellison and then the guy from Twitter, Musk, right? Tesla, SpaceX, whatever he calls himself. And then Bezos, and maybe Ellison and what's his name are flipped, Musk. Anyway, Newsweek, I believe, certainly the Washington Post used to own it. So I think this is a newspaper that's owned by one of the richest men in the world. So they're not going to like Mamdani. He wants them to pay higher taxes. He wants the owner, Bezos, to pay higher taxes. And he should pay higher taxes. Of course he should. He shouldn't have $100 to $200 billion. No one should. It's just wrong. There's no possible way to justify it. There's no way it's good for society in any way to allow anybody to accumulate that kind of money. It's just wrong. There's no defense for it. And he uses his money to promote anything but good policies for our country. So Newsweek here, Mamdani could lose his chance of winning change after bruising Cuomo debate. Now, they don't say how it changes, but the basic theory here is that it's dropped a little bit. They have to. They're like, well, the debate was bruising. We could be seeing slightly different dynamic, but if you actually look at the numbers, you delve deep into it. It's a 2% drop, according to Betfair. Betfair gave Mamdani a 90% chance of victory on Thursday before the debate, but only an 88%, so a 2% drop, and Cuomo's went up by 1%. Now, I was surprised even to read that because I looked at Polymarkets. And Polymarkets actually showed that Mamdani got a boost out of the debate. Mamdani did better out of the debate. Apparently, Betfair went in one direction, Polymarkets in the other. Now, I couldn't access Betfair. Betfair is UK based. And apparently there's some law, I couldn't, and whatever. My browser said you're not allowed to access this site. So I don't know if that's what Betfair says, but I would presume that they're telling the truth. I mean that, Newsweek isn't lying when they say that the odds dropped by 2% for Mamdani to win. And again, they pretty much acknowledge, there isn't much change, little change with Mamdani remaining the strong favorite. But what I find so interesting about this, it's kind of, you say, hey, Hal, what are you wasting our time with this? They're grasping at straws. They're so desperate to find some silver lining in this terrifying news that a self-proclaimed democratic socialist who thinks that Israel should not exist as a Jewish state, even though that's how most Americans feel, even though the majority of us, even when you throw in all the Republicans and all the independents, we all say, no, it's Palestine that we care about, not Israel. That's where we are now because of Israel. Despite all of that, Newsweek is desperate to somehow figure out a way to see harm coming to Mamdani. They're so eager to defeat him. But they even acknowledge that Betfair results indicate very little change in the odds, although the change they cite is a slight improvement in Cuomo's chances of winning. I was really surprised because, as I said, I couldn't access Betfair, but Polymarket showed just the opposite. And it's clear, it's absolutely clear that the Bezos magazine there, I'm going to assume he owns Newsweek. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm not. They clearly cherry-picked because here's all the aggregate. This is from John Stossel, some sort of he's a libertarian kind of a kook. Stossel's election betting odds in the past 24 hours, Mamdani up by 0.9%. He's at 88.9%, according to the election betting odds. We're going to go show you Polymarket. But what the point is here is that, again, what the media is trying to do is find some way to undermine Mamdani's campaign by cherry-picking a British odds site, right? No, Newsweek is going by its president CEO, Dav Pragad. So it's not Washington Post. I don't know who Dav Pragad is. He may be an Israeli, actually. Let me figure that out. Dev Pragad, British American, Indian. So I take it back. Dev Pragad is not Jeff Bezos. But we've seen Newsweek. It's very much a centrist, moderate sort of democratic organ, and they do not like for that. They're just not fans. They're not fans of the democratic socialists. The most reliable, I think you should be, if you're looking at betting markets for a New York City mayor's race, honestly, I would look at the American betting site. Not saying the Brits don't get it right. Look, obviously they have a big incentive too, but we know our election's probably better. Like if I was looking at who was the favorite to win a UK prime minister race, I would look at Betfair. It's the UK, right? That's where most of the bettors are going to be in the UK. So they're going to know. I think the people who are going to know who's going to win New York City mayoral election are most likely people who live in the United States. So look at this change. Before debate, October 16, 2025, that's yesterday at 7 p.m., which is when the debate started. Zohran Mamdani just below, a tick below 88%, 87.9%. Today, now, at least when I called this up, 90%. So that was about 11 a.m., 10:30 a.m. Looks like he's actually done pretty well. Came out of that looking pretty good. And another way you can know that Mamdani did pretty well is the New York Times coverage. They couldn't bring themselves. They were looking desperately again for something to find that helped Cuomo. And they really just couldn't. Their article, there's 7 takeaways. I don't have all of it here for you, but this really struck me. One of their takeaways, Sliwa, the Republican, attacked Cuomo more than Mamdani. You're no Mario Cuomo. Now, Sliwa doesn't like Mamdani either. He went after him over and over. Said, you're not great. They both, Sliwa and Mamdani, attacked Cuomo for his sexual, his peccadillos, for his killing people in group homes. That can't help. Doesn't help, because the people that you're trying to get are the anybody but Mom Donnie voter, right? And those are the people who are going to either vote for Sliwa or you. Sliwa's telling his voters, you suck, Cuomo. The people who are right now saying, I'm going to vote for Sliwa, I'm not going to vote for Cuomo. Sliwa's saying to them, you suck. You killed people with your nursing home shenanigans for money, by the way, because the nursing homes backed you. You gave them that special dispensation where they couldn't be sued if they took people back in. They overcrowded. If they didn't make it, if they brought in people into their nursing home who might have COVID, you gave them an exemption from liability. So you suck, Cuomo. You're a sexual predator. You suck, Cuomo. That can't help him, because Sliwa was saying to his voters, people who say, I like Curtis Sliwa, I don't like Cuomo, or I like Sliwa better than Cuomo. There are guys telling him, don't vote for Cuomo. That's not good. That ain't good. Mom Donnie is probably the best Democratic aligned candidate out there right now. I have my issues with him, but I hope he wins. I really, really do. But when you look at the party more generally, remember, every single Democrat in the House voted for Hakeem Jeffries to be their leader. Every senator in the Senate voted for Chuck Schumer to be their leader. That's just totally inexcusable. There's no justification. There's no way you can look at that behavior and say that's okay. And if you look at the right, and you look at the, see if I can get this video up for you. It doesn't look like it wants to play. It's interesting, because they actually seem more willing, more capable. And it's not just, I'm not talking about, you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, but they're actually willing to a degree to call out the Republican Party and to call balls and strikes to a degree that Democratic media won't. So I want to play this here. This is from Kim Iverson. Now, she is kind of a libertarian. I'm not really sure where she falls on the spectrum. She's certainly not pro-Israel. She's certainly not a Zionist. And she's going to talk here about the most popular hosts on Spotify. It's quite interesting, actually. Let me play
here in the top five podcasts. Who do we have? We have Nick Fuentes. Then Good Hang with Amy Poehler. So that's the only one on this list that is not political. Then you've got the Joe Rogan Show, number 3. I mean, look, Nick Fuentes even outdid Joe Rogan. Then you've got Candace in number 4, and the Tucker Carlson Show in number 5. I mean, what's amazing about that is 4 of these top 5 podcasts are America First against Israel. That just goes to show that is the way.
Think about that. All those influencers, and I think the top 5, 4 of them are political, right? The only one who isn't would be Poehler. And of those influencers, and let me just try to see if I can get this to work, because I'm having a little bit of trouble here. So I'm looking to my side here. Don't want to mess up too badly here for you. But of those influencers, all of them, well, Poehler's not political, but the other 3 are certainly associated more with the right. 2 of them, hard right, Fuentes and Candace Owens. Owens, a friend of Charlie Kirk. She often tells us that, and it's, as far as we can tell, completely true. Fuentes is to the right. He's a Groyper, is actually known for being anti-Semitic. I've heard that. I don't really spend a lot of time right now worrying about people who are anti-Semitic. I'm Jewish. I don't really spend a lot of time worrying about anti-Semitism. To me, the bigger problem in the world right now isn't those who hate Jews, it's Jews. I'm sorry to say, as a Jewish person. Now, That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be afraid of a person like a Fuentes, that there couldn't be another Holocaust. There could be. There absolutely could be. But the way you stave off that terrible eventuality, the way you prevent it, is you fight for justice for all. You don't perpetuate your own genocide. You don't kill people because they stand in your way or they occupy land that you want. That's not going to make people love you and want to not kill you or defend you. Just the opposite. So for me, the much bigger problem in the world today isn't those who want to kill Jews. It's Jews who are killing other people. That's a much bigger problem, and that's what I'm more focused on. The other two, I have no reason to think Candace Parker is anti-Semitic in any way, nor is Tucker Carlson, certainly as far as I know, though they've been accused of it. But what we're seeing on the right, especially younger conservative voters, is a recognition that Israel is a terrible problem. And our support for Israel is moral, it's a moral crime. It's just so wrong. I mean, I keep saying moral, but we've lost our way. We've lost our morality by supporting Israel. And the conservative influencers get that. I said, what, 3? I said 3. Rogan, I would say, is more centrist, although he's often accused because he, I guess, did support Trump. Kind of support. I don't know if he really did. He's been very critical of Trump. Let's play more, though, because Iverson really, I think, nails it. And this is a really, I think, valuable video.
But you can see here in the top 5 podcasts, who do we have? We have Nick Fuentes, then Good Hang with Amy Poehler. So that's the only one on this list that is not political. Then you've got the Joe Rogan Show, number 3. I mean, look, Nick Fuentes even outdid Joe Rogan. Then you've got Candace in number 4 and the Tucker Carlson Show in number 5. I mean, what's amazing about that is 4 of these top 5 podcasts are America First against Israel. That just goes to show that is the way, that is culturally where America is now. America is now culturally not with the establishment, not with AIPAC, not with Israel, not with any of those foreign entanglement agendas. Clearly, Americans have moved on. When will our politicians learn? They don't have to learn because they just give us the same choices over and over again. And clearly, even when we think we're getting a
So that's such a good point, right? I mean, the same choices, right? What were your choices in 24? Trump and Harris, both totally tied to Israel, both completely, there's no daylight between them and Israel. So Iverson's right. That's not where the American people are. Why don't the Democrats take advantage of this dynamic? Why don't they say, hey, look at all those young Republican voters who are sick of Israel or sick of our being tied to Israel, who want us to move away from Israel. And who do they vote for? Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer? There's not even any. You say, well, we voted for Schumer and Jeffries before October 7th. All right. Well, what about now? Why aren't you moving to get rid of them? Why aren't you breaking with them? Because they're part of the American-Israel axis.
Like with Donald Trump, he gets bought off by an Adelson, and so then we don't really have another choice. But let me just show you some of the things that these other podcasters have said about Israel, about...
This is where I really also wanted to play. And I do thank Iverson, right, for doing this, because she's going to get... They're clear. They're clear what the problem is, these con influencers that I have so many differences with, so opposed to in so many ways, on Medicare for all, on the environment, on protecting poor, struggling, working people generally, on taking on big banks and corporate monopolists. On those issues, there's so much daylight between us. But on this critical moral issue, they're getting it. And the Democratic Party doesn't.
About America First. Here's Joe Rogan.
Any reasonable person would look at Gaza and go, this seems kind of excessive. Mm-hmm. This seems kind of fucking crazy. Right. It seems kind of crazy that 70,000 people or whatever it is are dead, including women and children. Mm-hmm. Like, this is the only way to do it? Really? Yeah. Any reasonable person.
So, I mean, this makes it really simple, right? I mean, there's not the histrionics like with me, right? He doesn't go on, oh, this is the most awful thing. Say, hey, 70,000 dead. This is the only thing you could do, Israel? I mean, just real plain spoken.
Make you anti-Semitic. It doesn't make you anti-Zionist. It doesn't make you anything. It just like doesn't make you pro-Hamas. Like, no, it
could be pro-human.
Yeah.
So there. I mean, that's so simple, right? So clear. So this is the so-called MAGA people, right? Didn't I guess Rogan endorse Trump? Maybe. Just saying, hey, care about people. It's so simple. Democrat Party can't get that. What the hell's the matter with them? And with you if you keep voting for them?
Humans should be murdered.
Yeah. Just like, that sounds so reasonable. But the thing is, like, we never got into that. Yeah. Because the conversation, tactically, he entered into the conversation as, because he doesn't have really a defensible position. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to say this is the only way to do it.
Yeah.
So what do you say? You say, you need better experts. You shouldn't be talking to this person. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. Like, why don't you have this? You've never been there. You should go there. Like, bitch, I am not going there. What the fuck?
Yeah, because he's talking about Barry Weiss, right? She was on his program. She's this new head of CBS News, total Zionist, put there by the Elson billionaire family. And he's saying, no, I don't need to go to Israel. I don't need to hear the Hasbara. I can see what's happening. I get the reports. It's just simple. You don't need to kill these people.
Talking about.
You're not even going to Brazil for another UFC fight.
Yeah, exactly. I don't go to Canada.
When he said, by the way, bitch, I'm not going there, he's talking about Barry Weiss, who kept begging him to go to Israel over and over and over. Every time she's been on a show, let me take you to Israel. Go to Israel with me. Let's go to Israel. You see it for yourself. Go to Israel. Just really insane. Candace Owens also tops the list of Spotify's top 5 podcasts. And of course, we know many of the things that she has said, but let's just hear them again. Straight from her.
Before he played Candace Owens, because also moral clarity that's completely lacking on so many people on the left. Ari's saying, hey, go on Iverson's podcast. Get me an invitation, Ari. I'll be there, in a heartbeat. Love to go on her podcast. If I got invited, I'd go.
I would literally rather saw off my own foot than support Israel ever again, by the way.
I mean, why is it so easy for them to just be clear, right? I mean, a lot of the people that have supported Candace Owens in the past are Zionists. She was a big Charlie Kirk. She was one of his closest buddies, and he was coming around to her position, not the other way around. I don't think it's that hard to look at what's happening and say, this is wrong what Israel's doing. It's not hard. This is wrong what Trump is doing. It's not hard to do that. This is wrong what Harris Biden did. It's not hard to do that, except if you're a Democrat.
Supporting that demonic nation ever again. That's like, I'm
so she's she's a super Christian. So she's calling it a demonic nation. Okay.
Train, it's crazy. I've learned way too much. Like you delivered in every way that you are supposed to deliver by just going full mask down. You often hear this word inhumane, right? They don't dehumanize. You dehumanized yourself. You proved that you have to not be a human to look at what is going on in Gaza and to try to spin it as necessary, as a necessary response to October 7th. That takes somebody that is something other than human to keep you.
Exactly right. I mean, she's right. Spot on, 100%. So, we have to say, if we're on the left, what's the matter with our hosts, with our YouTubers, with our podcasters, with our politicians, that they can't come close to the moral clarity that some of these righties are able to gin up? And look, you have people like AOC who's so self-righteous and so confident that she's on the side of right, of morality, and she's good. And I remember what she said about MTG. Oh, you think if you vote for Marjorie Taylor Greene, for her, block the shield, right? The the Iron Dome. That's just crazy. I never would support anything that she supports. Listen to how she responds to what the ceasefire looks like and how much less clarity she offers, how much less ability AOC has to call out Israel's crimes.
Publicly, maybe I'm wrong, about the ceasefire in Gaza. Do you believe President Trump deserves credit for that?
So I'm going to stop. So, this is the thing that politicians never do, by the way. Sorry, I had that little thing pop up. It's an easy question. Does he deserve credit? Well, I said, no, he doesn't. He doesn't deserve credit because he didn't do anything to restrain Israel or to even make clear that we're not going to allow Israel to continue the killing. Now, again, I can change that view. For now, I don't think the deal is good enough to deserve credit. It was more just we put a gun to the head of the victims and said, give everything up, or we'll blow your head off. That's what the deal looks like to me. Now, in a year, if things are better in Gaza, in a year, if Israel has moved out, in a year, if they're having elections and it looks like there may be a Palestinian state, I'll see it differently. But the question is, does Trump deserve credit? So, of course, there's no yes, no from AOC, but listen to what she says.
I find there have been several ceasefire announcements and developments that have happened over the past 2 years. I think that the release of the hostages is a...
Look at that. The first thing, the release of the hostages, 20. Okay, I'm glad they're released. Why don't you say, I'm glad that Israel isn't killing 100+ Palestinians a day? I'm glad that for now we're not reading about Palestinian children getting bullets in their head. Why doesn't she say that? That's what Candace Owens was talking about. That's what Joe Rogan was talking about. And I believe they both voted for Donald Trump, which is pretty damn reprehensible, pretty damn awful. But they outclassed you 100% in their answer, AOC.
Tremendous accomplishment. And
so it's the freeing of the hostages before she even can mention the families of Palestine.
It is providing so much healing to so many people.
She can't even say Palestine. She can't say it.
And Palestinians, and it is a profound and important moment in this conflict. I also think that...
And conflict, no killing. No, not a conflict. She's so vapid. She's so on the one hand, but on the other hand, this just isn't acceptable, folks. And when right-wing influencers are able to show you up for the equivocator you are, then clearly you're doing something very, very, very wrong.
As President Trump was on the plane back to the United States, there's already indications and questions about whether this ceasefire will hold.
Well, and I mean, that's fair. That's right. And I think she's right to point that out. But the first thing you need to point out is that the reason the ceasefire came about is because of the extraordinary inhumanity that Israel has demonstrated towards the Palestinian people. And our moral duty is clear. Stop the killing. But she can't do it. She can't do it. And that's why I'm just completely done with that party. She's at the left flank. She's about as not bad as it gets. All right, here's someone who's actually a lot worse than as not bad as it gets. Kamala Harris. Now, I thought this was a really interesting back and forth that Glenn Greenwald had with her video. And I wanted to talk about it because I think he kind of gets it wrong, and it's important that we get it right. It's really important that we get it right.
With you, what Kamala Harris said about herself at this latest book tour stop.
That is a decent resume, but go ahead.
But well, some people have actually said I was the most qualified candidate ever to run for president.
Right, so she gets a lot of heat for saying that. I was the most qualified person to ever run for president. She says that. I'm not going to give her heat. I'm going to give her heat because that's just such a cringy, braggy, obnoxious thing to say. But I'm not saying it's untrue. I was thinking a lot about this. Who's clearly more qualified? If you look at qualifications, right? Offices held. I don't know what else you would look to say, well, who's the most qualified? What did you do before you were president? And if your qualifications are, well, I sat in this office, and she did a lot of things. She had a lot of impressive titles. There's no question about it. I don't know who's had more impressive titles than she has, who's run for president. She was the San Francisco district attorney. She was the California attorney general. She was the U.S. senator from California, and she was vice president. That's pretty good. That's a lot. She checks a lot of boxes. The problem is the American people don't care that much about what your qualifications are. They care about what you're going to do. What did you do? What will you do? And she failed completely to answer those questions in a way that made us think she would be a good president. She didn't say, I'm going to fight to make your life better. She didn't say, I'm going to stop Israel from killing more Palestinians no matter what. I'm going to make sure everyone has health care. I'm going to deal. Yes, the border is really, really, really challenging. We have a lot of issues that we have that it involves, including wages in this country, including opportunities for people that we've harmed in the past and south of the border, especially. But she didn't deal with that at all. She made fun of Trump for not building a wall. So the question of qualifications is kind of irrelevant. People say that about Hillary. Oh, she's so qualified. She's so qualified. She was first lady. She was a U.S. senator. But she'd be an awful president. She was Secretary of State. She'd be an awful president. She was a terrible Secretary of State. She and Clinton were kind of like Trump. They view the world as their oyster. How can we profit from it? How can we profit from Haiti? How can we leverage our influence in the U.S. government to get enormous gobs of money for the Clinton Global Initiative and Clinton Foundation, rather than how can we leverage our influence to make life better for people around the world? They never asked that question because they couldn't care less about people around the world, except to the extent they could become enriched by them. So yeah, I'm willing to play along, Kamala. Yeah, you were about the most qualified person. I was talking to my son about this. Because we were all like what, what a braggy, obnoxious thing to say. Some people say I was the most qualified person. But okay, maybe you were. But that doesn't matter. We don't care about your qualifications. We care about what you're going to do for us. What are you going to do for people who need help, who need assistance, who have been left behind? And you couldn't care less about those people. And you made it clear throughout your career that they're just stepping stones for you. Now, if you want to look at other presidents and other people who've run for president, I'm not clear. I don't know who would have more. My sense of, well, Ike, he won World War II. Yeah, that was a great accomplishment. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I'm not sure that makes him more qualified, right? Being the supreme commander of the Allied forces is really, really cool. I get it. And you did a good job. No one would say you didn't. But I don't know, does that make you more qualified than someone who was a DA, an attorney general, a U.S. senator, and then a vice president? Because Ike wasn't any of those things. Maybe Nixon, he was a representative, and then he was a vice president for 8 years. I don't know. He didn't hold as many offices as Harris. I don't know who's clearly was more qualified. So you can make fun of her for being obnoxious and, boasting, but it's not clear that she's wrong. More from Greenwald on this topic.
Catch the reference. Here's the rest of this.
So Kara Swisher's kind of a little bit dumbfounded, right? Really? You just said that? You're some people have said, some people, right? That's sort of the joke, right? No one really ever said it. So you say some people, because how do you disprove that? And I don't think anyone ever did say that about her, actually, except for maybe her. As far as I can tell, no one said, except for Kamala Harris, that she's the most qualified person to run for president. That doesn't mean it's not true. She might have been. She might well have been the most qualified. But the reason this is important is because Democrats who think that this is some sort of a meritocracy and you check enough boxes, people will vote for you, or that makes you entitled to be president. No, what makes you entitled to be president is that you fight for the American people. You fight for a better world. This is a lesson they've completely ignored, lost. And you know why they've lost it? Because they don't want a better world. They don't want to fight for you. They want comfortable 7-8 figure deals when they leave office. That's what they want.
I like that some people say, very nice.
Right. So she's sort of saying, yeah, you're kind of being funny, tongue in cheek. Yeah, some people say. And listen to what her Harris is. So, by the way, this really reflects, I think, I'm not sure what egotism, incredible degree of self-centeredness. She doesn't even get. She has zero understanding of how badly she came across there. She really doesn't. She doesn't get how badly she looked by saying that. Well, some people say I'm the most qualified person. There's zero empathy. This is a huge reason she lost. Talking down to people, saying to protesters, oh, you don't like the war. You don't like what we did to the Palestinian people. Well, wait till Trump comes into office. Yeah, that's not how you win.
Go ahead.
I'm just speaking fact.
Yeah.
Look, so she just she doesn't even get that, yeah, maybe it wasn't the best way to frame it. Some people say, why don't you say, hey, I was qualified. I held a lot of offices, and you could say, I wouldn't agree with you. I did a really good job. People respected me. I don't know whoever said this. Actually, that's not true. One person said it. I said before, no one said it. So this is from Gretchen Whitmer in 24. She's with Josh Shapiro. They're campaigning for Harris. And Gretchen Whitmer's headline, right, which he writes underneath her clip is, let's get one thing straight. Kamala Harris is the most qualified and experienced person to be president of the United States, period. Well, it's sort of weird because she's not president, right? She never became president, but when this was posted, she wasn't president either. Maybe she'll become president. I mean, she's going to run, I'm pretty certain at this point. But let's get one thing straight. Is the most qualified and experienced person to be president, never president. Who is the most qualified person to be president? LBJ, right? Wasn't he? Was he speaker? He wasn't speaker of the House. He was in the House. He was in the Senate for Texas. He was vice president before he became president. So maybe he was the most qualified. I don't know. Let's get one thing straight. Harris is the most qualified and experienced person to be president of the United States, period. So that's what Gretchen Whitmer wrote on her Facebook post. But what did she actually say? Did she say that?
And let's be clear, Kamala Harris has more experience than the Trump Vance ticket combined.
So she doesn't say she's the most, she has more experience than the Trump Vance ticket combined. Okay.
Between the two of those dudes, they only have 5.5 years, and it's not public service, it's self-service that they're in the business of.
So that's Gretchen Whitmer's entire post. She says she has more experience than the two of them combined in public service, and they weren't even in public service. They were in self-service. Okay, no argument. But she didn't say she is the most experienced person to ever run for president. She did put that in the headline. She didn't actually say it. So I don't know who some people who say this are. But again, what's much more important than the fact that Harris, puffed herself up and presented herself as this wildly experienced person, qualified person, what's really important is she misses completely. She fails to understand that what we're looking for in a president is a leader. We're looking for a president, someone who's going to stand up to power, stand up to the rich, the influential who have done so much harm. That's what we want. And that test you flunked. You got an F- on, notwithstanding all your qualifications, Kamala Harris. That's why you're not president. That's why I hope you never become president. And that, by the way, is going to do it for today's Halitics. I do need to talk about, and it's awful, because we do need some. Look, let me be real clear here. None of this program is designed to be a defense of the Republicans or to make the argument that they're not that bad. It's just that we have two awful parties. When you look at what Trump and his ICE thugs are doing in the streets of our cities, it's terrifying. It's fascism. No question. No doubt. We need something different. But that something different can't be the Democratic Party. It just can't. It's just that party. It's just too bad. It's just too unresponsive, too corrupt. And people, by incompetent, selfish people, thoughtless, inconsiderate people, we deserve so much better. Maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to figure out a way to come together in support of Green Party candidates and alternative party candidates. They're not perfect, but my gosh, they're better than what we've seen in the past 30, 40 years running our country, at least. All right, I'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for being part of Halitics.